Hi everyone, this is Lorraine Driscoll. Welcome to another episode, I guess, if you will, of Building Better Brains. Normally I don't do live videos. However, I wanted to start doing more of that and just doing snippets, and I thought Dyslexia Awareness Month was the perfect time to do that. Last week on Friday, I touched a little bit about why I have, I want to say issues, but why I think we need to expand on Dyslexia Awareness Month and maybe refer to it as Reading Disorder Month, because there's a lot of people who do not hit the markers for dyslexia. They have difficulty reading. They have a reading disorder, and dyslexia is one type of reading disorder. So someone might have difficulty learning to read because they have poor visual processing, because they have poor working memory, because they have a developmental delay. There's just overall global weaknesses in their brain. As well as many other reasons, which I'm not even going to get into all of those details today. So one of the definitions of dyslexia, I really like that definition, and it really can apply to reading disorders in general. And it is that the red flags are there when someone with even normal reading instruction, decent reading instruction, with possibly even tutoring, extra support, all of those types of things that we do to help children learn to read, if they are having still a hard time learning how to read. They cannot learn to read fluently like their peers, despite all of that support. So I have plenty of clients who come in and they're really frustrated. Their child is not learning to read. That's been going on for years. They've hired tutors. They've spent and put way more time and energy into it than many other parents have, because their child's just not picking up the way that other kids are. And when that is happening, that's a huge red flag that something is going on. And that could be that they have poor recall in terms of, first of all, there's obviously poor decoding. So being able to sound out and blend those words or letters together to form words. It could also be that they have poor recall in terms of actually knowing what they're reading in terms of the content. And it could be both of those things, right? Obviously, it could be that they can't decode, they can't recall. And then there's people who can read really fluently. They can decode no problem. I see that a lot whenever I have parents coming to me. They have teenagers. They slip through the cracks because they can decode. The reading comprehension was always weak. And all of a sudden, they're in high school and there's a lot of content and they are just over their head overwhelmed, because now they have no idea for the most part what they're reading in these textbooks and all this literature. And so what's really going on is that these people are using their working memory to decode, and they're using their working memory to do a whole lot of other processes that should be automatic at this point in the brain, and it's not automatic. And the big difference between someone who is dyslexic and someone who is what we call a typical reader is that a dyslexic is reading from Broca's area of the brain, so that's the right side of the brain, whereas someone who has learned to read fluently is reading from the left side of their brain. So the left side of the brain is where the language center is, where we process language and reading, and where it's processed processed at its best, if you will. And visual processing, auditory processing, phonemic awareness, even understanding what is going on in the story, all of that actually occurs in a matter of milliseconds in someone who is a fluent reader and has really mastered literacy. And what has been found through brain imaging scans is that dyslexics do read from this right side, this Broca's area of the brain, and that they have fewer reading brain circuits and in the wrong places. So the parieto-temporal and the occipito-temporal lobes of the brain in individuals with dyslexia are underdeveloped, and these are areas of the brain in fluent readers that are highly developed, and where the language processes are automatized. So you can see how if someone is reading from the part of the brain where it's really not where they're supposed to be reading from, why they're going to have a lot of difficulty with reading and why it's going to be really laborious. And obviously reading disorders are a spectrum. Some people struggle greatly with it, some moderately, and some kind of sorta. And what I explain to parents is that when your child's reading from the right side of their brain, it's like they are using their foot to do something or their toes to do something that their hand can do. And we've all heard these wonderful stories of people who have disabilities, physical disabilities, and they're able to use, their foot to do what their hand can do or whatever. But it takes a lot of work and effort and so forth. And that's really not what it was designed to do, and why there is going to be so many hiccups and challenges. So thanks for tuning in, and if you want to learn more about dyslexia, what can be done, reading disorders, and what can be done, interventions that use multi-therapy approaches, because there's often more than one reason why people have a hard time learning to read, then hop onto my website and or give me a call. Thanks for listening.